The primordial issuance from the abyss of the state philosophy called analytic philosophy or analytic uh, nihilism, as a political investigation into the realpolitik of philosophizing. So it's pointed out that as a direct result of the fact-value distinction, which in this sense, as the ursprung of analytic philosophy, we should understand as the same thing as the view that values are subjective. Strauss says that probably um, the initial reason in the age prior to Bismarck, around the time of the 1848 revolutions, when the values rather than the old notion of ideals came to be the thing people spoke about. Um, the Werte, I guess is the word. Nietzsche popularized this word, and it took over everywhere the old word ideals. But in English, it's value or values or worth, um, especially exactly in the sense of facts and values, facts and subjectivity. So, why is this view one a state philosophy? How does it affect um, political actors, and what is it exactly? So, one example is that the British economist Robbins, at the time of the Great Depression, appealed to the logical positivists, saying there can be no um, transpersonal evaluation of values, uh, quantification of values, um, because what counts as a good life is subjective. Therefore, it can't be brought into the last bastion of not the objective, but of the uh, abstract, which is held still to be real, which is mathematics or quantification. Um, the core model of it is mathematical physics. So you have this mathematical logic, so called, up above it, the set theory, things like that. And even though, as in Quine, it is recognized not to be uh, ontologically uh, an object in this sense that straightforward objects are, nonetheless, as an abstraction, must somehow be held to exist because we must have the theory, the Platonic theory of matter. Otherwise, everything's lost. Um, so, what is the real? And so you could see that since it was held that at Trinity College, Cambridge, or wherever it may have been, or in certain circles that were influential, one could tell that it was seriously held by the people who were self-respecting with regard to the intellect. That people were took this teaching seriously. Basically, this belief in the cosmic matter and a civilization based on cosmic matter that could basically stand as the final solution to philosophy, so that knowledge would be got and knowledge would be got out of mathematical physics. And if we begin with a basic question of what is. We say something like, as soon as we talk about a normal issue for common sense, such as today is a chilly day and it's 2021, by signaling 2021, we bring in the whole of subjective history, we bring in the link to the Christian calendar, we bring in the whole sense of whether we know what belonging to this Western world means, and so on and so forth. As soon as we say anything the slightest bit complex, he was sitting in his house um, on the day prior to the death of the president. And then, oh, well, the president, what does that mean? So we're assumed to know this whole world of politics, all of a sudden, everything. As soon as you say anything in a normal sense, you bring in the subjective in a big way. So if you start with the basic outlook like this and you say, we must disregard everything subjective, everything human in the ordinary way, and only go to the mathematical physics as our model, and then a little bit of other stuff starts to come in a little bit. But you can see the basic sense is all human experience is regarded as subjective or a matter of values and therefore excluded from knowledge. Um, so there's different senses in which one speaks of this nihilismus or nihilism, and each has the four different senses. But this sense does not cover the epistemological nihilism. So they still believe this current state religion, which is nihilism in the sense of no morality, no human experience, no values, is not nihilistic in the sense that it believes there is knowledge and knowledge about especially physics brought in the form of this Platonic idea of the abstraction of set theory and the like, and mathematical theory of the kind that appeared in the Principia Mathematica, Bertrand Russell and Alfred North Whitehead, that this kind of mathematics, though it's admitted not to be part of the physical order of things, must exist. And beside from that, there's only physical matter as understood according to the regularities that can be generated in a mathematical logic. So again, that's not the nihilism in the full sense. You see, they believe in a certain project, and that this project will get the most purchase on reality for human beings, and in a larger sense, I suppose also that it will be the most explanatory. So, but so you can see, this is a specific project, which actually stands as the state philosophy, and in the Anglosphere, let's say, especially in the Anglosphere. And it has many different variegated strands, as many as are the votives or the professoriate behind it, and far beyond just they. But it also controls the education system called primary education, which pushes towards this cult of the cosmic material, as Desjardins put it, I think, in explaining the Soviet Union. Um, to connect it to the Heideggerian thought in a general way, what that would mean is that everything is understood sort of as firewood sitting in the woods, as not as wood to be used to make things, but as wood just like timber, but just as dried up wood that you find and you use to burn as fuel. Um, Lingua, in Latin lingua. There's different words, both in Greek and in Latin, for the timber, which is hule, like Aristotle uses for matter, and just the firewood, which is fuel. So what Heidegger is saying in a way is everything has got down to this low level of fuel rather than the high level of material that could be used to make a bed or a house, or and that would go also for stone being used to make statues or all kinds of things. But everything is being now interpreted as this so-called standing reserve of, by metaphor, the dry wood, the firewood. Um, so what I especially want to point to there is how much idiosyncratic thought is active in this whole situation, that such abstruse notions, which are nonetheless held by the people that have thought through them the best, have a direct realpolitik effect on economics. For instance, that economics ceased to believe that it could be a human science based on experience, and said that values are subjective, therefore we can't enter into this whole sphere, therefore we should try to be more like physicists. And that specific policy measures during the Great Depression were based on those arguments, but that the whole field of economics as mathematics is based on the attempt to be more like physics. That this is our primary education and our secondary education, and for some, their entire lives, in this kind of hegemonic, but nonetheless extremely provincial notions. But that's the dichotomy that's very powerful, is that it's the thought that's now in power, but nonetheless it is this bizarre provincial little claque that just holds on to its power because of the joy that people get when they get in it. They look around and they say, everything else, I'm proud that I don't know about it, because it's not knowledge. It's the reverse of knowledge. I have full possession of knowledge. Knowledge means that the basic bet we should make is on physics and on the mathematicized organization of quantifiable systems.